Hello, my name is Chris Melke, and welcome to another edition of Southern Distilling News, the review segment. So today, on this nice Sunday, we have a couple of samples from Dark Corner Distillery in Greenville, South Carolina. We have a Lewis Redmond Bourbon and a Stump House Whiskey. So Dark Corner Distillery started up in 2011, and an interesting story about this is that I actually targeted them for a review, which you can read on the site on each of these two, and I actually special ordered these and picked these up in Asheville, North Carolina during the Southeastern Distilling Expo. So it was kind of a nice way to get this alcohol. Also, Dark Corner Distillery is known for their Whiskey Girl products, which are flavored whiskeys that obviously appeal to the female persuasion. So we'll just start into this. So like I said, the full written review is on the site already, and I'm just following up with a video review. So let's start with their whiskey. Pour a little bit in here into a Glencairn glass. So this whiskey, you can tell it's aged a little bit shorter than the bourbon, because you can tell by the color here. The interesting thing about this is in small gallon barrels. So I mean, it's less than 53 gallons. And so the whiskey actually is aged in these barrels and pulled out at a time to give it some maturity. But in a smaller barrel, what happens is that the surface of the barrel is of course smaller. So what happens is that the product ages faster, so it gets a little more color, a little more quicker. I think this is under a year, but on their website I'll give you more details on how much it's aged. So usually you get some caramel on the nose, some spice. You can tell by this is a younger whiskey. You can tell it's going to have a little bit of kick when it goes down, but still that's not bad. It's actually pretty good if you're looking for something with a little bit of spirit to it, per se. Got a little bit of nuttiness too. So I get some tobacco, some smoke. I also get a lot of like a chestnut flavor to it. On the back end, I'm getting some pepper and some spice on the back end. It doesn't really burn all that much on the back end. The proof on this is 80 proof, so it's kind of a lower proof whiskey, which is nice. But it's definitely a pleasant flavor, and definitely has like a probably a terroir of South Carolina. So it's definitely an interesting whiskey to pick up and try out. So let's try the bourbon. I've got our glass here. And what we'll do is we'll actually make a recipe with the bourbon in a minute. So the nice thing, so yeah, Lewis Redmond Bourbon. So there's an interesting story about Lewis Redmond. He was an outlaw. He was on the run from the authorities for making whiskey. And what it was is that he was eventually caught and put into service in South Carolina in their making whiskey for them in their state-owned distillery. Now the interesting thing too is that it's a small craft, because on each one of these bottles is a number and a batch, bottle number and a batch number. So that this is a very handcrafted whiskey itself. But on here is a little history of Lewis Redmond and then his escapades, which is kind of a nice touch to give it a little bit more of a high caliber sort of feel to it. So let's go ahead and sample some of the bourbon. So as you can tell, the bourbon comes out a lot darker. The other thing I'm looking for is what's called some legs on it. You know, you can swirl it on the glass. And what happens is that the liquor will usually bead at the top, and then it'll start to flow downward. If it takes longer for this liquor to flow downward into the glass, it means it has some legs, and it's also more viscous because it's sticking to the sides of the glass. This bourbon is actually put into the same barrels that the Stump House whiskey is put into, and just aged for a little bit longer. Again, more details on their website if you want to check it out. It's a good website. Okay, so I did that a little bit differently. It's nothing wrong with that, but so on the nose with the bourbon, I tasted smelled some of the toasted kind of marshmallow flavor. This is actually really mellow. This is one of my more favorite bourbons that is out there. Obviously, you know, you can tell by the depth of the bottle. You know, we've been drinking some of this. It's really interesting. It's got that nice caramel flavor, a little bit of, like I said, toasted marshmallow is what I always get out of it, which is nice for drinks and that sort of thing. So you get that easy flavor, and then on the back end you get more of the caramel flowing through, and it's very thick. It's not thin at all. So I mean, it's got a very pleasing taste to it, of sweet, and then also spicy. So it's a very interesting bourbon, and I think, you know, if you pick this up, your friends will love it. Mine do. They actually they'll be sad when this bottle gets drained. So let's go ahead and make a drink. So what I'm going to make is what's called the Queen Street Angel Manhattan. So what I've got here is a whiskey glass that's kind of chilled. It's one of these that has the liquor and the liquid in the bottom, so you can chill it, and then you put your whiskey into it and not disturb it at all. You know, so you can drink a cold glass of whiskey or bourbon and not have ice cubes diluting it. So I put a maraschino cherry in there. And then in here, I put some ice in this decanter. And what we're going to do is we're going to put 2 ounces of Louis Redmond bourbon in here. So that's just 2 capfuls here. And then we're going to put a splash of vermouth. So I'm going to turn around here, get some vermouth. Then I'm also going to need some Angostura bitters, so I'm going to haul over the bitters here. So it's just a splash of vermouth. A splash is just, well, that's a splash. So we're just going to call that a splash. I'm not a bartender, never claimed to be one. And then we just got a little bit of Angostura bitters, just a dash. So we're just call that a dash. Okay, now we're going to shake this concoction up. Move this out of the way because I'm good at pushing stuff around. Hey, let me bring that back in here. So now we mixed it up. We mixed up the bourbon, the vermouth, and the Angostura bitters, and we're going to pour this into the glass over the cherry. So this is a Queen Street Angel Manhattan. All right, cheers. No, I like that better than most Manhattans. That's a pretty good drink on a just to go out. You know, I like the coldness of the glass, the chill of the liquid. You know, I mean, it's definitely the bourbon accents well with the vermouth. So there you go, Queen Street Angel Manhattan. So again, check out the full reviews we got Louis Redmond's bourbon over here. We've got the Stump House whiskey on our site at southerndistillingnews.com. Thanks a lot, and cheers.